is that in the ordinary course of events, any repressed material, in the ordinary course of events, it will come up when it gets triggered again, right, from just life circumstances, right? Or it can come up when you're practicing meditation, because when you're practicing meditation, you're being grounded, you're being present, right? And you're being receptive, and you're being open, and you're not trying to control anything. Perfect, that's the perfect environment for something to naturally come up. Except the difference between that and some of the psychological approaches is that you are definitely grounded, because the meditation is the primary activity. You're not trying to remember a trauma. You're meditating. But when you're meditating, especially if you've been meditating for a while, right, and you have the, you're doing it correctly, right? It's inevitable. And if you study the teachings of meditation, you'll hear, especially from more current teachers, it's inevitable at some point that that material is going to start to come up. Because the repression of it, the push is being released because you're meditating, right? So that material, it can come up either in bits and pieces, a little at a time. It might come up in an intense experience that you're having, right? But the grounding that you're experiencing in terms of being present in this time allows you to be with it in such a way that it's a lot safer. It's a lot safer. Yeah. And not only is it a lot safer, you don't even have to know the details. You don't have to go back and re-experience the event, literally, like remember exactly what happened and so forth. No, it can come up in terms of just the energy of it, the emotional energy of it can come up. And so that's why when you're practicing meditation with people and you're practicing over long periods of time and so forth, if somebody starts to cry or somebody starts to shake and so forth, and if you watch a lot of the teachers work with students, especially in retreats, like Muji does long silent retreats, and in those retreats you see more of this. You see people get up to the microphone and start to cry and shake, and they don't know what's going on and everything because material's coming up, right? And what Muji says is correct. He says just stay with the meditation. Just stay, the way he says is just stay as the self, abide in the self, stay with the breath, stay present, and just let it come up. Let it bubble up and let the bubbles, burst. Understanding that this is good, this is healing. That's occurring when you're doing that. That's a healing process that's occurring when you're doing that. And that process, through the practice of meditation and the release of repressed emotions, changes how you see things. And changes how you think naturally, right? You could say that if you understand what we're talking about here, and if you understand how it works, you could say that as you go through your life and you're being present, you're being aware of what's happening when it's happening, just that presence and that awareness of what's happening when it's happening will have whatever comes up get experienced and discharged. Just that presence that's there. Now, obviously, when you practice meditation, we're practicing, this is very important to understand. When we practice meditation, we're practicing being aware of the breath, right? Now, why are we practicing being aware of the breath? Well, there's a lot of different ways to say this, but one way we could say is that we're practicing being aware of the breath because the breath is always happening in the present moment. So if you're aware of the breath, you're there. You're there with the breath in the present moment, right? Yeah. So this is one of the things that we're practicing. The other thing about that is we're practicing being aware of the breath because the breath is one of almost everything that we're unaware of. The breath is almost one of everything that we're unaware of. What's that mean? Well, we practice walking meditation. What are we practicing then? Being aware of what? Walking. When we're sitting, it's aware of the breath. When we're walking, it's aware of walking. Well, if we're practicing walking meditation, and when we practice walking meditation, the instruction is be aware of the body walking. And if you do it the way it's meant to be practiced, it's important for you to notice that almost never are you aware of the body walking. Almost never are you aware of the body walking. So when you're aware of the body, and even when you're doing the practice of walking meditation, you're aware of the body walking, and it's an interesting experience, actually. If you really become aware of the body and aware of the body walking, you can actually experience your hip moving in real time. You can actually experience your joints moving in real time, right? And most of the time, you don't have that experience because you're thinking. You're in your head. You have no idea what's going on in the body, right? So the awareness of the breath and the awareness of the body walking is the beginning of a process to become aware of almost everything else that you think you're aware of and you're really not aware at all. Because Tai Chi Chuan is relatively easy to learn, right? It is a form of meditation, for certain. It's certainly a form of meditation, right? But not only is it a form of meditation, it's an opportunity for you to be aware of your body and be aware of your relationship to your body in terms of having an intention for your body to move a certain way. Now watch, have an intention for your body to move a certain way, but what's going to come into play that's going to make this a complicated process is the ego. Is the ego, that's right. Especially if you're doing it in a group, right? Because now you're self-conscious. That if the way you're operating in relationship to practicing Tai Chi or Tai Chi Cha or meditation is that it's difficult and and you're easily distracted, and then, that's the ego. That's the ego that's doing that, Because if you really examine it, and I understand, don't get me wrong, I understand where that comes from, right? But if you really examine it, the moves are the moves. The moves are what they are. Difficult is added to that. Meditation, that's why I say to people who start to practice meditation, right? If you're a beginning, and you guys know this, if you're a beginning practitioner, don't expect to have any fun. This is not a fun activity, right? Right? It's not a fun activity. And in the beginning is where you face all the restlessness. In the beginning is where you face all the resistance to it. In the beginning is where the mind is involved all the time, right? Yeah, so the key to it is to just sit through that. Just keep doing it. Sit through that and follow the instructions. If you get over that hump, then it starts to get easier and easier and easier and more comfortable and deeper, right? And you start having realizations and insights and so forth. The same thing is true with Qigong, which is what Tai Chi Chuan is. It's a form of Qigong, Qigong is a word that just means energy practice, right? It's the same thing with that. Realistically speaking, you're not shouldn't say this, but I say a lot of things I shouldn't say. Realistically speaking, you're not doing Tai Chi Chuan for at least 6 months or a year. You're not even doing Tai Chi Chuan. No, you're practicing doing Tai Chi Chuan. You're practicing learning the movements, right? You're practicing learning how to relax your body doing the movements. Then you're practicing letting go of your ego, leaving your ego out of it, and then doing the movements, right? So it really takes time for you to learn the movements efficiently that you don't have to pay as much attention. You don't have to think about doing it, right? You can be more present. You can be more aware of your feet touching the floor, right? As she says all the time, drop your attention to the soles of your feet, right? What that's saying is it's really helping you get out of your head, get out of your head, get out of your head. Be present to the experience of your body right now is what the whole thing is doing, right? And then on top of that, if you get good at it, right, you're actually doing a movement that does two things. It softens the body, and it opens the blockages in the body so that the chi, right, the life force, right, the energy can flow more freely. When you're doing that kind of work and you're doing sitting meditation, if you do the two things together, it's much more powerful. It really accelerates the whole process of your being consistently awake. And the first thing you have to do to be a real sincere student in terms of learning how to be present, whether it's through sitting meditation or moving meditation or Tai Chi Chuan, the first thing you have to do is accept the fact that you're not aware. The first thing you have to do to get out of prison is accept the fact that you're in prison. And for most people, they can't do that, can't deal with that.